Boyz II Men, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, active since 1985. Today's feature defined what harmony meant in the 1990s. Four young men from Philadelphia whose voices shaped the decade sound of love and heartbreak. They broke records with pure talent, not gimmicks, becoming the highest-selling male group in R&B history. Their music crossed generations, color lines, and genres with timeless sincerity. But as the industry evolved toward hip-hop, shock value, and solo stardom, their polished unity began to feel outdated. The same formula that made them legendary suddenly made them invisible. What happened? Let's talk about it. Salute to my man Terry Rux on IG for this request. It's your boy JC StuntedGrowthMusic. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Boyz II Men are an R&B group from Philadelphia formed at the city's High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. The original lineup, Nathan Morris, Wayne Morris, Sean Stockman, and Michael McCary, was inspired by New Edition, even naming themselves after one of the group's songs. Their talent earned them a deal with Motown Records in 1989, guided by Michael Bivins of Belle Biv DeVoe. Their 1991 debut, Coolie High Harmony, mixed gospel roots with pop polish, producing hits like Motown Philly and It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. By the mid-90s, they were global superstars. Their album 2 and Evolution delivered timeless hits like I'll Make Love to You, On Bended Knee, and the Mariah Carey debut One Sweet Day. They broke Billboard records, won multiple Grammys, and set new standards for male vocal groups. But as R&B turned toward hip-hop swagger and solo stars, their clean, coordinated image began to fade, setting the stage for their first major growth stunt. Stunt number 1, the industry shift left them behind. Boyz II Men's first major setback wasn't caused by a lack of talent or effort, it was the shift of an entire industry around them. By the late 90s, R&B no longer revolved around vocal groups and ballads. Hip-hop had taken over radio, changing what listeners expected from black music. Swagger replaced sincerity, and the image began to outweigh harmony. The very traits that made Boyz II Men icons, their discipline, clean presentation, and emotional honesty, were now viewed as too polished for an audience craving edge and individuality. Their 1994 masterpiece 2 had turned them into household names, selling over 12 million copies in the US alone. But their follow-up, Evolution, while still a solid success at 2 million sold, revealed how quickly the landscape was moving. New stars like Usher, Genuine, and D'Angelo brought youth and sensuality that resonated with a new generation. Even traditional R&B was now fused with hip-hop beats and street energy. Boyz II Men's lush harmonies and matching outfits suddenly felt like yesterday's sound, more suited for weddings and nostalgia than charts and clubs. Compounding the issue was their separation from Motown, the label that had carefully built their image and positioned them worldwide. Without that machine behind them, marketing became inconsistent and album visibility dropped sharply. They were too classy to chase trends and too proud to force a reinvention that didn't feel authentic. But in doing so, they stood still while the genre sprinted ahead, unable to reconnect with the world they once dominated effortlessly. By the early 2000s, their chart presence had vanished. They could still sing circles around anyone, yet the audience that once screamed their lyrics had moved on to a different frequency. Boyz II Men hadn't lost their harmony. The world around them had simply changed its tune, leaving legends waiting for a rhythm that never returned, but still respected for the foundation they built. Stunt number 2, the business machine broke down. For the most of the 90s, Boyz II Men had something even more powerful than perfect harmony, a label that believed in them. Motown Records wasn't just their home, it was their amplifier. Every single, photo shoot, and tour was carefully timed to highlight their clean image and emotional appeal. When that partnership began to fracture around the turn of the millennium, the group lost a force almost as essential as their voices. Their sound didn't suddenly fall off, the business structure around it did. In 2000, they released Nathan Michael's Sean Wayne, their first album leaving Motown, and the first they fully controlled creatively. The project was mature, self-produced, and rooted in artistic freedom, but without Motown's powerful marketing network, it went largely unnoticed despite critical praise. 2 years later came full circle under Arista, an attempt to modernize their sound through collaborations and updated production. It showed flashes of old brilliance, yet lacked the promotional push needed to make a lasting impact. For a group that once dominated radio and TV, simply being seen became their toughest challenge. Behind the scenes, label transitions brought smaller budgets, inconsistent rollouts, and fewer promotional tools. Their videos were no longer in heavy rotation, and tours increasingly relied on nostalgia rather than new singles. By the mid-2000s, they'd become self-managed veterans trying to survive in an industry that now rewarded controversy, spectacle, and viral energy over vocal craftsmanship. They were still making great music, just fewer people were aware enough to care. The departure from Motown symbolized more than just a label split. It marked the end of a system that once treated R&B groups as cultural cornerstones. Without that infrastructure, Boyz II Men releases became whispers instead of headlines. The harmonies remained flawless, but the business harmony that once carried them to history's top tier had officially gone silent, replaced by a quiet independence that couldn't match Motown's global megaphone. Stunt number 3, losing Michael McCary changed everything. Every great harmony needs its foundation, and for Boyz II Men, that foundation was Michael McCary. His deep bass anchored their sound, giving the group warmth, soul, and a grounded presence few quartets could replicate. When he began suffering from chronic back problems caused by multiple sclerosis and later scoliosis, the group's chemistry took a hit that no vocal rearrangement could repair. What the public first saw as a creative break was in truth the beginning of an irreversible fracture that forever changed their dynamic. McCary's voice wasn't just another note, it was the glue between Sean Stockman's tenor, Nathan Morris's baritone, and Wayne Morris's high-flying falsetto. Without that bottom range, their harmonies lost the fullness that made classics like End of the Road and I'll Make Love to You feel larger than life. His calm, stoic presence also balanced the stronger personalities within the group. When he officially departed around 2003, it left more than a sonic void. It disrupted the emotional rhythm of Boyz II Men's entire identity. The group continued as a trio, but the difference was unmistakable. Fans who grew up hearing 4 distinct voices could feel the gap immediately, even if they couldn't describe it. Later, recordings became brighter but thinner, and live performances required restructured arrangements to cover the loss. Though they remained elite showmen, critics noted how the once towering harmonies now leaned on nostalgia to fill the silence. The group fought to honor their past, yet every performance reminded audiences of what was missing. McCary's departure also exposed the toll of longevity. Years later, both sides admitted communication had broken down under the pressure of fame, exhaustion, and unresolved tension. What began as brothers chasing a dream turned into partners fighting to preserve it. Losing one voice revealed how fragile every perfect harmony can be, and for Boyz II Men, that silence echoed louder than any note they'd ever sung together. All in all, Boyz II Men's story isn't one of failure but of endurance. They rose during a golden age of R&B and became the blueprint for male vocal groups to follow. Yet, like many pioneers, their reward was seeing the world evolve past what they perfected. When the trends shifted, labels moved on, and one of their voices fell silent, they kept singing anyway. That persistence, though often overlooked, is its own kind of legacy. Today, Boyz II Men continue to tour worldwide as a trio, performing the songs that once defined an entire generation's understanding of love and devotion. Their harmonies may have changed, but the feeling remains the same. They are a living reminder that real music doesn't expire, it adapts, survives, and still moves people decades later. They once sang about reaching the end of the road, but the truth is, Boyz II Men never really stopped walking. They just learned to move forward in a quieter lane, still in harmony with who they are. Salute, much respect. It's your boy JC, StuntedGrowthMusic, and I'm out.